So you're saying that, the Canadian as a brand has no value?
No. No, if people say you're from Canada, that's nice.
Yeah. It's not that it doesn't have value, but there is no distinct Canadian brand of art.
Yeah.
Unlike, there is a British...
Because there are successful Canadians.
Oh, yeah.
There are artists that are successful.
Oh, yeah, sure, but I'm just saying, Canadian, how does Canadian art figure? Well, I guess there's two ways to look at it, individual artists, but I guess I'm saying, as a brand, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with that. I think, and some people say that the Giardini at Venezia, anyways, with all these, country participations, is an antiquated model. It's like the Olympics or something like that. This, kind of, steadfast nationalism in the face of globalization. It is kind of irrelevant in a lot of ways, but I just think our perception, we're still a little bit complacent, surfing off of, like in the 70s, maybe somebody like Trudeau who invested money and vision and really did a lot of things to get Canada on the international scene. That's long dissipated now, and it's an antiquated model. So there is no particular special association with Canadian art.
In New York, is it New York at the 49th parallel? Was it?
Yes, the 49th
Rene
parallel.
Blouin?
No, it was.
Who was there? Anyway.
At the 49th parallel, well, that was a government-funded gallery in the heart of Soho, and Soho was a big deal. But the Mulroney government in 1988 shut down the 49th parallel and withdrew Canada's participation in the PS1 studio program.
Yeah.
Good idea.
But at that time, like prior to that time, that's when there were so many Canadian artists that were really pioneers in terms of video art and some of the things you're talking about, conceptual and performance art, which were also getting international recognition because of those kinds of
there's more artists, Canadian artists, participating internationally than ever before. The generation of artists now, artists under 40, I'm just saying they're out there of their own hard work and their own volition doing it. No thanks to anything else, and they don't. Being Canadian on the international scene means nothing special.
I was going to say that I think it's really is an individual effort, and there isn't really a Canadian brand, as we said. Unlike there is a perception of Britain having a...
Well, mind you, there's a Vancouver brand and a Winnipeg brand.
Well, yes, I was going to say that Winnipeg, but it's not really a Canadian brand. It's a regional, individual.
No, it's due to the success, individual successes of artists.
And with Vancouver, it's really individual artists. If you take the individual artists away, I don't think there really is anything distinctly Vancouver about it. Maybe less so with Winnipeg.
Yeah.
But also the climate has changed. It's a different. We're now still in the era of art fairs, and it has opened it up and made it possible for individuals to participate, individual artists, and individual galleries, and so we're talking about the commodity end of it, where we're able to get the art out of the gallery and put it into an international format, and at least have it seen.
Do you think that some Canadian galleries have started going to fairs just because there isn't the Canadian market to buy?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's pure survival necessity. The art market, and I want to sound positive, and Gary's mentioned some interesting examples where art collecting and viability was 20 years ago. It's quite a bit advanced from there, but I still don't think it's advanced at the level that it should be. The Canadian art market is extremely anemic compared to what's going on globally. For better or worse, if you're one of these people that's not, keen on art being the commodity that it is, contemporary art has become a multi-billion-dollar global industry, which is blowing past this country like a freight train. Again, these are remarks that only are valid up until this economic meltdown, by the way. I don't know what it's going to be in 6 months, but that's the reality of it there. So the galleries that, and some of them that Gary's mentioned, in particular Catherine Mulhare and the Christopher Cutts Gallery, Metivier and some of these, they're highly dependent on the global market, which is as it should be. I'm not, when I'm saying, you know, there's no distinct Canadian brand, I'm fine with that. You know, although I think we as a nation should be more investing in it, at least far more than the pathetic level we do now. But you know, a lot of that nationalism is actually, it's parochial, and it's not that interesting or valid in a global world we live in. So I'm just saying what the fact is of that. I'm not even saying it's a negative. But.
Well, 10 years ago, it was a very different story. I mean, I think a lot has happened in 10 years. And Canadian art, 10 years ago, was really not very globally minded, if you will. It was really much more inward-looking. And there was, because I started the magazine, the first issue was in Los Angeles, launched there. The perception, it was really interesting to get the perception of Canadian art south of the border there. And there was zero perception of what Canadian art was. There was none. It didn't exist. And people knew maybe 2 Canadian artists. There were Jeff Wall and Stan Douglas, and that was it.
I think it's up to about 5 artists now.
Yeah. And yet, as you said, there are many artists, many Canadian artists are participating in the global market, but they're not really highlighted as Canadian artists. They're just artists, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, which is fine. But like I'm saying, you know, it's okay that it doesn't have a brand, but that's the positive aspect in some ways.
But that's part of being a Canadian.
But I still think it needs more support from us as peoples.
What current ideas do you see emerging within contemporary art?
In 30 words or less? Right, that one. Yeah, when I read the questions, I couldn't immediately come up with a pat answer for that one.
I mean, these are, you know, that's almost a ridiculously broad question.
Yes.
Ideas in contemporary art.
Well, I think, sorry, go ahead.
But I was just going to say, coming again from my perspective in an artist-run center that, you know, started out as a photo-based organization. Certainly within artist practice, you know, the fact that artists don't necessarily define themselves within a medium and are working in a multimedia kind of way, and that we're, like we've expanded our mandate to include, you know, lens-based and computer-based artwork within our full mandate. And we have, for example, a show right now where you have one artist who has J.P. Kelly, and he has, you know, a number of photographs, he has a number of video installations, he has an animation piece, and he has some drawings. And, you know, I think there is certainly that, you know, the way that the technology has condensed itself into, you know, one machine that has opened up possibilities for artists on a technical level. And the thing that's interesting is it reminds me of, actually, there was a time, you know, I would say probably in the 70s when you had the time when Michael Snow kind of emerged. Almost everyone who was a painter also thought they could make a film at the time, right? You know, people would go to the Isaacs Gallery and sit in chairs like this and see films by Greg Corneau and Jack Chambers and John McGregor and a whole host of people. There were, you know, people felt they were visual artists and anything visual was their medium. And I think that's certainly, you know, something within the way artists practice. But, you know, in terms of ideas, that's, you know, you could probably name a lot of.
Yeah, it's a global discourse at this point. There's artists, you know, working at the cutting edges of technology, and other artists, of course, that are fine with, you know, with a pencil and a sheet of paper.